It's around 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time as three men travel together inside the snug cabin of a Piper PA-32R Saratoga. Pilot Rod Martin is flying two fellow congregants back to Pennsylvania after a long day of church duties in Indiana. Their mood is light, their conversation easy, and for now the flight feels calm and steady. Moments later, the view shifts outside, showing the Saratoga cruising eastbound at 9,500 feet along the ridgelines of northern West Virginia. But beyond the steady hum of the engine, the horizon is starting to blur. Clouds are thickening, the base is lowering, and slanting rain creeps in from the west. The plan is simple: stay on course, make good time, and be home before dark. Yet the sky has a way of rewriting even the most carefully drawn path, especially when the weather begins to drift beyond the limits of one's own qualifications. The time is 15:43 as November 720 Romeo Papa lifts off from Daviess County Airport in Indiana on a late Thursday afternoon. Pilot Rod Martin and his two church congregant passengers, Wesley Martin and Dwayne Weaver, depart after a full day of ministry work, satisfied with what they've accomplished. Just before takeoff, Dwayne snapped a quick photo inside the cabin and texted it to his mother, a cheerful check-in that he'll be home soon. Piloting this 1980 model Piper Saratoga today is 50-year-old Rod Martin, a devoted husband, father, and respected member of his Pennsylvania church community. A private pilot with just under 400 hours, Rod is most at home in the Saratoga, having spent more than 230 hours flying this exact model. Alongside Rod are two close friends and fellow members of their church community. 32-year-old Dwayne Weaver, who works in shipping and receiving at a local feed mill and volunteers in outreach through Fresh Start Counseling Ministries. And 30-year-old Wesley Martin, a self-employed carpenter and poultry grower who recently devoted 2 years to voluntary service at a training center in Indiana. With their mission accomplished, the three men settle into the rhythm of the flight home, content and unsuspecting of the challenges building far ahead in the distant sky. Having departed Daviess County Airport at 15:43, the Piper Saratoga, registration November 720 Romeo Papa, begins its eastbound journey toward their destination airport in Myerstown, Pennsylvania. The route ahead stretches about 510 nautical miles, a flight expected to take just over 3 hours under visual flight rules, cruising at 9,500 feet with an average speed of around 160 knots. The course carries them across southern Indiana, over Ohio's farmland, then across the rugged Allegheny ridges of West Virginia, before descending toward the quiet lowlands of Myerstown, Pennsylvania. The time is now 17:30, an hour and 47 minutes after takeoff, as the Saratoga cruises east at 9,500 feet under visual flight rules. The flight has been uneventful so far, but to Rod's surprise, the weather ahead is changing faster than expected. Towering convective clouds rise higher with each mile, forming a broken line of buildup stretching across the horizon. Occasional lightning flickers within the developing cells. Light turbulence ripples through the cabin, and the air takes on a heavier, unstable feel. Rod monitors the instruments and the onboard weather radar display, studying it closely for any gaps that might allow safe passage through the line of weather forming ahead, unaware of how much worse the weather truly is beyond his limited view. Weather forecasts for the day indicates a large area of unstable air stretching across the Ohio Valley and into Pennsylvania. A cold front draped across the region was fueling rapid convective development by late afternoon. Several active weather advisories were in effect. Convective Sigmet 64 Charlie, valid until 7:55 p.m., warned of severe thunderstorms with tops to 39,000 feet across Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and Illinois, moving east at 30 knots. Further east, Sigmet 05 Echo extended that same line into Pennsylvania, describing a 30-mile wide band of embedded thunderstorms with tops to 28,000 feet. A center weather advisory, issued shortly before 3:30 p.m., reinforced the picture, a line of moderate to heavy rain and embedded cells stretching from northern Ohio to central Pennsylvania, showing little change expected through the evening. By 1745, November 720 Romeo Papa enters the area of forecasted adverse weather and checks in with Cleveland Center.
Cleveland, Saratoga 720 Romeo Papa with you at 9,500.
November 720 Romeo Papa, Cleveland Center's AS altimeter 3005.
3005 Romeo Papa.
7 minutes later, Rod contacts Cleveland again, this time requesting a 30-degree left deviation, as it becomes clear he's trying to navigate around the worst of the developing storm cells.
Center 720 Romeo Papa.
720 Romeo Papa, go ahead.
Just looking at this next route here, and I'm thinking about doing like a 30-degree left right now, get up on the top side of this stuff. What does it look like on your end?
Number 720 Romeo Papa, I am showing some slight gaps in that, but the whole line off of your left-hand side is moderate, heavy with pockets of extreme. So there are maybe some slight gaps. I'm just not real sure if they are, in fact, gaps from your point of view, but whatever you think looks good, just let me know if you need anything.
I appreciate the help. Thank you, Romeo Papa.
At 17:55, as controllers exchange duties, the Saratoga's flight is specifically mentioned. A small VFR aircraft pressing on through weather that's quickly turning hostile.
And the little VFR guy down to the south, 0 Romeo Papa is on frequency. He's the one that said he's going to try to get to the north of some of that weather there. But I told him just to keep a look at it.
In the meantime, American Airlines Flight 1737, cruising at 23,000 feet in the same sector, reports developing convective activity ahead and requests a deviation to avoid the advancing storm front.
230 for American 1737.
American 1737, showing an east-west line, might have extreme precipitation about 10 miles south of 80. If you need to deviate, let me know.
Roger. How have people been getting through there?
Most people have just been picking their way through. There is kind of a small gap that I'm showing that's right at your 12 to 11 o'clock and about 30 miles.
Yeah, we're seeing that. Okay if we head for that?
American 1737, yeah, deviation to the, I'll show you deviating right and left as needed and go direct to Charleston when able and advised.
Charleston when able, thanks for American 1737.
As the airliner deviates to stay clear of the weather, Rod presses on, still level at 9,500 feet, flying in and out of developing convective cells and doing his best to chart a safe path using the onboard weather radar display. The gaps that once appeared open are now closing fast. At 18:01, he calls Cleveland once more, not to request but to inform, that he's deviating about 20 degrees left, hoping to exit the worst of the weather and skirt north of the growing storm system. It's a subtle but telling shift, a sign that conditions are changing faster than he can safely plan for.
370 Bob, just deviate about 20 left, and so you can punch up to the top side of this thing.
Number 720 Romeo Papa, Roger, I'm showing that might have extreme precipitation just off your left wing there, and with the small gap at your 12 o'clock and about 5 miles.
Rod doesn't respond, and a few seconds later the controller transmits again, seeking confirmation on how he's managing the deteriorating weather conditions.
Number 720 Romeo Papa, how's it going through that weather? November 720 Romeo Papa, Cleveland.
At 18:06 p.m., the Saratoga's transponder return vanished from the Cleveland Center radar display. Controllers promptly reached out to nearby aircraft, including Delta 2770 and American 2664, requesting that they attempt to contact the Saratoga on frequency.
And American 2664, no, we just had a VFR aircraft fly near that gap that's on the left, and we lost radar contact with them, and the radar contact went down very, very quickly. So we're just seeing as someone flies over that vicinity if they see anything at all.
Oh, okay. Stand by.
No response was ever received, and within minutes, it became clear that the aircraft had been lost in the storm. As communication attempts ceased, Cleveland Center relayed the aircraft's last known coordinates to local authorities. Search and rescue teams were deployed into the wooded hills of northern West Virginia as evening approached. Roughly an hour later, just after 7 p.m., emergency responders located the wreckage near the unincorporated community of Metz. The discovery confirmed what controllers had feared. The Saratoga had been lost in the storm, and tragically, pilot Rod Martin, along with passengers Wesley Martin and Dwayne Weaver, perished in the accident. When NTSB investigators arrived at the crash site the following morning, they immediately noted that the wreckage distribution and damage signatures were indicative of an in-flight structural breakup rather than a controlled descent or impact under power. The fuselage was found inverted, crushed uniformly along its right side, with the engine and propeller still attached. Both wings had separated at their roots, the left wing located about 100 yards west of the fuselage, and the right approximately 400 yards to the southwest. Fracture surfaces on each wing root displayed characteristics of overstress failure, consistent with forces far exceeding the aircraft's structural limits. Debris extended nearly a mile south of the fuselage, with pieces of the tail section, including the horizontal stabilizer, vertical stabilizer, elevator, and rudder, found farthest downrange. The distribution pattern, coupled with the radar data showing a steep descending turn before radar contact was lost, led investigators to conclude that the airplane entered a convective cell, lost control, and broke apart in flight under aerodynamic stress. No evidence of pre-impact mechanical failure was found. All fracture points and control linkages examined were consistent with separation due to extreme turbulence and aerodynamic overload. The NTSB's final report, released on June 12, 2024, concluded that the in-flight breakup occurred as the Saratoga penetrated a region of severe convective turbulence within an embedded thunderstorm cell. Weather radar and satellite imagery later confirmed that towering cumulonimbus clouds had developed along Rod Martin's route, with tops exceeding 35,000 feet and strong vertical wind shear below the freezing level. In these conditions, the aircraft likely encountered violent updrafts and downdrafts that imposed aerodynamic loads far beyond its structural limits. Investigators determined that the Saratoga had been operating under visual flight rules in an environment clearly unsuitable for VFR flight. The pilot was not instrument rated and therefore not qualified to safely operate in conditions of reduced visibility or convective weather. No record was found indicating that he obtained a formal weather briefing or reviewed updated forecasts prior to departure, leaving him unaware of the full extent of the adverse weather developing along his route. Although the aircraft was equipped with an Aviation EX500 multifunction display capable of showing onboard weather radar imagery, the system did not provide real-time information. Its inherent delay in refreshing radar returns, combined with limited range and resolution, meant that Rod was interpreting weather data that, unbeknownst to him, was already several minutes out of date. What appeared as a potential opening on the display may, in reality, have already closed. This technological limitation, compounded by Rod's lack of instrument experience, likely led him to continue into rapidly deteriorating conditions that offered no safe escape. Ultimately, the NTSB concluded that the accident resulted from the non-instrument-rated pilot's continued visual flight into instrument meteorological conditions based on latent weather information, which led the airplane to enter extreme precipitation, resulting in a loss of control and in-flight structural breakup due to aerodynamic overload and turbulence. Rod, Wesley, and Dwayne almost certainly began their day with good intentions, a mission of service, fellowship, and faith. But by its end, those intentions met the uncompromising reality of weather and the quiet consequences of a single lapse in judgment. Flying VFR into IMC without the proper qualifications or preparation is a line every pilot knows must never be crossed. Yet in that grey space between confidence and uncertainty, Rod pressed on, trusting limited tools, latent data, and a hope that the sky ahead would clear. It's a story both human and cautionary, where good intentions met conditions that required training and restraint. In the end, it's a reminder that sound judgment, not optimism, is what keeps a flight safe when the weather turns.